Hello, everyone, and welcome to my official 2023 NHL mock draft. I've been really excited for this draft for a long, long time, as there's a lot of hype surrounding, some of the big name prospects, you know who. But for anybody who's just done even a little bit of scouting on this draft class, it's really deep, and a lot of players drafted in this first round are going to make it to the NHL and be contributing players. But yeah, so it's a very stressful day, so ignore my unmade bed. The draft is in just under 6 hours, and I also have two assignments due today. So it's quite the stressful day for me, but let's hop into this. First overall pick, I don't think there's any disputing this. It's going to be Connor Bedard. I'll talk on him briefly. I honestly think, um, even more so than McDavid, he's the most surefire prospect we've ever seen coming into the league. Just based off the media that's surrounded him and the hype, around him. Look at what he did in the World Juniors. McDavid wasn't dominating the World Juniors as a 17-year-old like that. Connor Bedard, an exceptional prospect. Chicago's got to be very happy they landed the number one pick here. Anaheim, they take Adam Fantilli. Also, not a bad player at all. I think he's a first overall pick in other drafts. Just big size, pretty decent skater, has a nose for the net, and just stuff happens when he's out there on the ice. Had a really good season with Michigan last season. I don't know if he's committed back to Michigan or he would, hop immediately into the NHL. But Anaheim, obviously sad they didn't get the number one pick, but it's not a bad thing when you get a guy like Fantilli at number two. And we got Leo Carlsson at pick number three. I feel like he's been the consensus three for a while now. And Columbus, again, missed out on Bedard, but you got to be happy here with a guy like him. I really see a lot of Draisaitl in his game in terms of a little bit of an awkward skater, but just really makes stuff happen. He's really creative offensively, can be a little, unresponsible defensively, but he's working on that part of his game, and I think he will be a great two-way center in this league when it's all said and done. But yeah, Leo Carlsson at pick three. If you ever see me looking to the side, I've just got a little bit of notes on my phone. I wasn't able to write anything down, so might just be looking over there if I need anything. And now at pick four, I got Matvei Michkov going to the San Jose Sharks. It's kind of a question surrounding where he's going to go. I don't think he'll slip that far because I think he's the second best prospect in this draft. And you could argue that offensively, he's, just as, electric as Connor Bedard is. He and Bedard have been, known by scouts, known by just even casual NHL fans who look forward to the upcoming drafts for many years. The only issue, obviously, the reason he gets picked number four is, there's always a little bit of a, dark cloud around Russian players and whether or not they're going to want to come over. And he is signed for another 3 years in the KHL. So that's going to, impact that. Next, we have Will Smith. His coach was actually Kent Hughes, who's the current GM of the Montreal Canadiens. So I don't see him going past his former coach, and for good reason. I think he's one of the better offensive players in this draft. His defensive game is a little bit lacking, in my opinion. I think sometimes he, has a huge offensive shift and then, he's slower on the back check and kind of lazy, but I still think he's a great offensive talent. He's going to Boston College next season, so I think another year or two of development, he's going to come into the league and be, a stud. So the Habs got to be happy with that guy. Zach Benson, I really love Zach Benson. He doesn't do anything exceptionally well like some of the other offensive talents. He does everything pretty solid. Not the best skater. He's gonna have to take a couple more years to improve his game, but Arizona is very patient right now. But it's just the heart and soul kind of guy. He's just it's in the dirty areas, makes those kind of plays. Think about just a more skilled Zach Hyman type player, and then also he played with Connor Geeky in Winnipeg this past season, who was drafted last season by the Arizona Coyotes. So I see that front office taking this opportunity at pick number six to pair the two together. First defenseman off the board. I think it was some stat like since some draft in the early 2000s, there has been always a top five pick that's a defenseman. This year, the first six picks are all forwards. But yeah, David Reinbacher, the Austrian product. is the first defenseman off the board. He's personally not my favorite defenseman of the class. I think he's amazing. I think he's going to have, good shutdown ability. He's decently mobile for his size. Think Moritz Seider kind of type. That's kind of what I see when watching him. And Philadelphia is going to be happy here, taking this defenseman and then get up with another defenseman. Personally, my favorite defenseman of the class, Dmitri Simashev. He played in the KHL last season for half the season, and then in their junior league or their development league, I guess. But he's really good all around the ice. I see lots of Victor Hedman when I see him, just how smooth and fluid of a skater he is at his size. Just knows where to be at the right time, and I think he's going to be a really dominant two-way guy. He's Russian, so a little bit of a connection there with the Capitals. A lot of people want them to get Michkov at some point in this draft. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be gone before pick 8. But the grade 8, pick 8. I think Washington's going to be happy with the Russian defenseman here. Next, we have the second player from the national team for the U.S. development program. We got Ryan Leonard, who was line mates with Will Smith. I think he has the best pure shot of anybody on the development team. There's some of the more skilled guys, but I really think he has, 50 goal potential in the NHL if he obviously reaches that. I think he's also committed to Boston College as well. So him and Will Smith, they'll spend a year together there, produce some amazing highlights. But yeah, just a great one-timer, kind of like put him in that OV spot on the power play, and he's going to produce. So I think the Red Wings are happy with this pick. Next, we have Oliver Moore, and he actually ranks, in my personal opinion, higher just as a total overall prospect than Will Smith even and Ryan Leonard, but it's just because of his skating. I think he's the best skater in this draft. He's fluid, he's super fast. He can, turn on a dime and really do anything when it comes to his skates. And then he's also just a crafty offensive player as well. Decently responsible defensively. We'll have to work on that part of his game. I believe he's committed to Minnesota, which is his home state. And yeah, St. Louis is going to be happy with him. He could slide. He could get picked earlier, but having going 10, I feel pretty safe about that. Next, we have Tom Willander of Rögle BK, just not the SHL, but their developmental league. He's climbed up draft boards throughout the season. Wasn't seen as a first round pick going into the draft, maybe even a few months ago, but now he finds himself being a lottery pick. He's just really good offensive talent, decently responsible defensively, and then like those Swedish defensemen are, just a really good fluid skater. And we know how much Vancouver likes their Swedes. So here they go. To back Swedish defenseman, though, with Axel Sandin Pellikka, who, in my opinion, is the best pure offensive defenseman of the class. Really good skater. See the Erik Karlsson comparisons, and it's completely warranted. Just a really good skater. He played in the SHL this year, so he's got some men's league experience under his belt. And I think with taking Zach Benson at pick 6, they're probably going to want to get one forward, one defenseman with pick 6 and picks 12. That's what I would do at least. So yeah, Arizona goes with Sandin Pellikka here. Next, we have Dalibor Dvorsky. Depending on who you ask, some people are a lot higher on him than others. I'm personally, lukewarm on him, but I think he's a really solid prospect overall. Not a crazy good skater, but really strong on the puck and someone who looks like he's going to translate into being an NHL player. And, the Sabres are just looking for just that, potentially a guy down the middle that's going to play, a long career with them. The Slovaks have, been really climbing up lately in their, ranking in the hockey world. I think this is a very fair spot for him. He could go even higher. He could slide a bit. But I like him going here to Buffalo and, just joining a really young, exciting core. Next, we have Matthew Wood of the Yukon Huskies. This is a decent draft when it comes to the, college talent. Maybe not in the first round exactly, but just overall, a lot of players from college are going to be drafted this upcoming couple days. And Matthew Wood is one of the best of them. He's just a really solid, leader. He just does a little bit of everything. He's decently physical. Just going to check what I gave him on some of his grades. But yeah, I really like Matthew Wood's game. He's just got a really good shot, really mature, developed shot. Um, really good offensive IQ, really good passing, decent hands for his size again. Maybe want to see him be a little more physical, but I think he's probably going back to UConn, so he's got some time to develop that. And then just defensively, nothing crazy that's gonna hurt him, but more development is definitely gonna benefit him. Next, we have Colby Barlow out of the OHL. He is a player, depending on who you ask, could go much lower than this spot, much higher than this spot. I'm pretty, consistent on Colby Barlow. I think he has a really good overall game. I think his game's going to translate decently into the NHL. Um, I'm, he's not the best skater. I think that's why maybe, some people aren't as high on him, but he's got an incredible shot. Incredible shot, one of the best in the class. And Nashville, really, when was the last time they had a consistent goal scorer? Uh, you knew who was gonna probably, you'd feel safe betting that over 0.5 goals on the night. And then he's also just pretty decent defensively. Still room to improve, but he's strong, protects the puck well. I like this pick for the Predators. Next, we have Nate Danielson in the midst of Calgary kind of imploding. They get a really solid prospect here. Again, nothing insane from him, but I do think his game's going to translate really well to the NHL. Bottom, I'd say his floor is a third line center. He could be a first line center though in this league. Really good shot, good hands, decent skater. I'm not going to talk too much about the Calgary pick, but yeah, here they are. And then the last member of the Will Smith, Ryan Leonard, and Gabe Perreault line. Gabe Perreault goes to the Detroit Red Wings. They got to be pretty thrilled getting him at pick 17. He comes from a hockey family, so he's been surrounded by hockey his entire life, pretty much. I just think his skating isn't really at the top of the draft is where you see those really good fluid skaters go, and it's what causes guys to slip sometimes. I don't think he does anything poorly. I don't think he does anything super well. Uh, he'll translate well into the NHL, but he's got a couple more years of development. I think just outside the lottery is a fair spot for him. Next, we have Brandon Yeager in their backyard, the WHL, the Winnipeg Jets. Again, another team who's kind of imploding, kind of, in that rebuild, uh, potential retool stage. They just got rid of Pierre-Luc Dubois. Who knows, maybe Scheifele and Hellebuck are next. But he's just a really good guy, really good prospect, I think. And then, he's got a really good shot. And Winnipeg fans can get used to hearing Jaeger bomb. I just feel like it's going to translate really well. If he gets, a good one-time shot, good goal, Jaeger bomb. It's just a very easy, marketable kind of player. Next, we have Jaden Perron of the Chicago Steel in the USHL. I'm really high on Jaden Perron. I think he's a really great skilled forward. I think he's decent fluid skater, but yeah, his offensive game shot is really solid. He's got amazing hands, good offensive IQ, can pass the puck, dish it off well. I'm really strong on that game, and decent two way game. Uh, Growing up, well, no, playing in Chicago's backyard in the USHL, I believe he's either committed to a college or he's gonna play in the USHL next season. But Chicago's got to be happy with this pick. I think in terms of pure talent, he's one of the better players in this class, but just size and a little bit of, USHL doesn't get as much of a kind of positive reputation as some other leagues. So I don't think he'll be drafted too high, but pick 19, still really happy about that. Next, we have Samuel Honzek of the Vancouver Giants going to Seattle. Honzek, I'm kind of lukewarm on compared to other guys. I just think he's not a very fluid skater. He's got really good hands, but kind of lost defensively. But decent player and someone that Seattle's going to be happy picking. Who would have thought that they'd be picking pick 20 within a few years? Just a couple seasons ago they were picking high in the draft. But yeah, so a solid guy, and Vancouver's not too far from Seattle, so they'll be able to keep a keen eye on him. Next, we have Edward Sala. I don't know how you pronounce it necessarily, but just one of those Czech prospects that people are starting to gain more hype on. I could see him getting drafted even higher than this. He's got similar point production in Liga to Martin Nichas or in his draft year, so I think partially with some of the foreign prospects, they benefit just from other guys in their home countries, going and making a name for themselves in the NHL. So when you hear people talking about David Pasternak, Martin Nichas, I think they're gonna, want to get a guy like Sala, and they're not going to be one of the. They're not going to want to be the team that misses out on a can't miss prospect a few years down the road. Gavin Brindley, Another great college player. He should go higher than this. I think talent alone, he could be a top 10 player in this draft. Maybe even top five. I just love his game so much. He's undersized though, obviously, which is why he's going to fall in the draft. But Danny Briere, the GM, knows a thing or two about being an undersized forward. But Gavin Brindley, he's an amazing skater, amazing offensive IQ and defensive IQ. He's really, he'll jump up on the rush, but or he'll join the rush, kind of join the attack and drive the net. But he can also, back check hard and get back. And he can also cover pretty well for D. And he's a pretty good backward skater as well. We saw this year in Michigan. He kind of was a great player to complement an offensive defenseman that goes on rushes like a Luke Hughes, because he knows when to jump back and, he knows immediately when to get back involved in the play. So I really like Brindley here. He could get drafted higher than this, lower than this, but I like him going to the Flyers. Danny Briere hopefully develops him well into being a similar player to him. Next, we have Quentin Musty of the Sudbury Wolves. Decent name, uh, really good OHL prospect, just a really solid guy. I think he, they're going to be really happy taking him here. I'm really high on him, but just in general draft boards, I think he probably subs a little bit. He's got really good hands, really good offensive IQ. He's pretty strong. Started to take the puck off of him, and his defensive game needs some improvement. But with a guy getting picked at pick 23, I don't think there's any expectation he's immediately in the NHL. So a few more years of development, and I think Musty's going to be a really solid middle six to top six forward in the NHL. Finally, another defenseman, Mikhail Gulyev, taken by the Nashville Predators. I'm pretty high on him. He is a solid offensive defenseman. I think I kind of see a little bit of Dmitri Orlov in him. Just a really good skater, really good, solid all around offensive defenseman. Doesn't do one thing insane, but he's going to be able to potentially power play or quarterback a power play, which is something that you look for when you draft a defenseman in the first round. His defensive game could use some improvement, but he only played in the MHL next season, so a couple more years of development is going to benefit him. And I think Nashville's happy with Barlow and Gulyev coming out of this first round. Next, we have Lukas Dragicevic to the St. Louis Blues. He's a great puck-moving defenseman as well. He's got great size, and he used to play forward, I believe, so you can tell that when he's on the ice, just his offensive instincts. There's no question about anything he can do offensively. Just defensively, maybe you want to see some more consistency out of his defensive game for him to take in a little higher, but I think he has the frame and the offensive tools to get taken in the first round on tonight's draft. Andrew Crystal from the Kelowna Rockets goes to the San Jose Sharks. They've already established that they're going to be patient by drafting Michkov. So taking Crystal is he's another guy. He's got to develop his game. He's not super fast, which is something that I think could cause him to slip, but he's got a really good shot. He can pick a spot from pretty much anywhere on the ice. And then he's just not very physical. He's, got to learn to use his body to his advantage a little more. And I could see him being a solid NHL player. Yeah, I think 26 is a fair spot for him. I could see him going higher. Some people are a lot higher than him than me, but I have him going here. And then Colorado traded back up into the first round. They have a couple picks actually, but with the first pick, they're going Anton Wahlberg. Just really solid Swedish defenseman, played in the SHL last season. Not the best skater, room for improvement there, but he's got, solid shot, good hands, and then, plays a strong physical game and a good two-way game. So I think that's what Colorado's looking for, and I think they get it here. Next, we have the Leafs taking Callum Ritchie. They've gone forward in the past few drafts, so I could see them going defenseman. It's just where the defenseman still left on the board in the first round. I don't necessarily think it's worth it reaching on a guy. They got Callum Ritchie here. I believe he has some relation to the Richies. I'm not 100% confident on that, but his game film from Oshawa, they weren't the most talented team, but he was able to still produce offensively. A really good talent. Probably goes back to Oshawa next season. And I'm sure a lot of Leaf fans are going to make a trip to Oshawa just to go see their new prospect. Really solid guy, former second overall pick in the OHL draft. A guy to look out for. You got Otto Stenberg, another Swedish forward. You could have him going higher than Wahlberg. I just have Wahlberg higher because he's a little, bigger, a little more physical, um, which I think uh, teams kind of look for. Where is Stenberg? Ah, Otto Stenberg. There we are. He can play center or the wing. Just a solid offensive player. Doesn't do anything crazy well, but is pretty responsible defensively. So I just think St. Louis, they drafted a forward in pick 10 with Moore, and then they Dragicevic, and then Stenberg. They're coming out really nice in this first round. Uh, and yeah, captain, good leader, good vocal guy for a Swedish team. And then we have pick 30, the Carolina Hurricanes going with Riley Height. Another guy who I'm probably not as high on as other people. Still do like him. Plays the center position. Uh, Got a good pass. His shot is nothing crazy, which is probably why I'm not as high on him. But he's got good offensive IQ, decent defensive instincts. Another player where you can see him translating into the NHL, but he's still a few years away from being able to play in the NHL. Therefore, he's not going to go, super high in the draft. Next, we have the Colorado Avalanche taking Ethan Gauthier. Some people don't have him as a first round pick. I certainly have him as a first round pick. Just the way he plays the game, in my opinion, is going to translate to at least a bottom six forward in the NHL. Not a lot of weaknesses to his game. He plays the wing. You know, Skating is nothing. His offensive game is nothing to behold. But really solid guy. Just knows where to be at the right time. It's in those spots. He played with Wall in Sherbrooke, and people thought maybe he was a product of him, but he produced like 16 points in 10 games, I think, when Wall went to play for the World Junior team. So, can fully produce on his own. Again, a few more years will help him, and I think he's going to be a solid contributor for Colorado, trying to win another cup. And then Oscar Fisker Mølgaard, the final pick of the first round, he, you know, doesn't jump off the page with really anything he does. It's just his, motor and his, work ethic that I really love. And, not the best skater or decent skater, not the best skills. His shot's okay. His hands are okay. His offensive IQ's okay. But plays a lot bigger than he is and a really solid, responsible defensive forward, someone that, I guess loves having on their team. And I think he'll be one of the better picks in the draft. When we look back at it, just in terms of like a solid player, he might not be that, 80-point guy in the future, but certainly, 20 goal, middle six to bottom six forward who plays PK and, can just play in those types of situations. So that wraps up my first round. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my analysis. It's going to be a really good draft class. The thing about the NHL versus the NBA and NFL draft is, we're going to have to wait a while, few years even, to see some of these guys play in the NHL, whereas NBA and NFL, they kind of step right into the league. But yeah, lots of guys with great potential to be, elite players in this league. And then, a lot of guys too that, look like they're just going to become good blue chip players, contribute to contending teams. And yeah, anybody who has a first round pick in this draft on tonight, Wednesday night, they're going to be happy with whoever they take. I'm sad that my Oilers don't have a first round pick, but we did get Matthias Ekholm out of that trade. But yeah, maybe we trade back up into the first round. I doubt it. We're not that aggressive. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed listening. And yeah, enjoy the draft.